Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I am Sarah Smith. I'm a horticulturalist here at Rogers Gardens, and this is our Thursday edition live stream, and we are talking about the plant of the week. So I always get the privilege to introduce to you what the new plant of the week is here at Rogers Gardens, and today it's the absolutely beautiful pincushion flower. This is a Leucospermum, and the people also call them proteas. I have some cut ones here. These are the ones we have growing in our main parking lot. So not the parking lot near the restaurant, but the additional old parking lot that we have. And everybody constantly is coming in and they'll walk up to me and go, "What is the yellow or orange flower that you're growing?" So we've all learned that I know exactly which one they're talking about, although there are lots of yellow and orange flowers out there. Right now, the pincushion is flowering.
Okay,
so
really quickly, sorry
yes.
to interrupt. It looks like we are having a bit of connection issues.
Okay.
So what we might do is move you a little bit closer.
Okay. Where should I go?
Don't worry about that. We'll move for you. There we are. Okay, we should be good to go.
I know I would be. I get really, the camera moves around too much.
No one's too dizzy. We're all good here. All right.
We're good?
We are good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for hanging in and not getting dizzy with me. So yeah, what I'm talking about, I'm going to readjust my stuff. Pincushion flower. Isn't this gorgeous? They're so absolutely beautiful. The color is just so stunning. They're so unusual and they're so amazing. So this is what we call pincushion. Now, there's a lot of things that get commonly called pincushion flower. There's also a plant called scabiosa that gets called pincushion. Sometimes even different chrysanthemums and stuff. So a lot of people call them pincushion, proteas, or the botanical on this is Leucospermum. So that's what this plant is. So believe it or not, this plant, even though the plant's not flowering right now, I think they're so pretty. They've got this beautiful fuzzy gray leaf. They feel so nice and felty. They get these absolutely beautiful flowers on them. So here's one that I cut this morning straight from our parking lot. Isn't that beautiful? So constantly, like I was saying, people come in all the time and ask us, what's the yellow and orange flower you have in your parking lot? And it's this guy. So they're just so pretty. They make a really, really beautiful cut flower. They last forever. And these absolutely are loaded with flowers right now. They're nice and mature, and they probably easily have maybe 50 flowers or so on them, it just per bush. So it's just really, really great. So don't ever feel bad about bringing these in the house. The more you cut them too, the more bushy they get. So if you live here in Southern California, you really should be growing this plant because it's so easy to grow. Trust me when I say it's super, super easy. All you need is a really good sunny location. You need well-draining soil, and that is it. No fertilizer. They can handle a little bit. I brought the alfalfa meal, so I talk about that a little bit with you guys, but they just need full sun, really good drainage, and no fertilizer. They can't handle a lot of phosphorus. So if you look at the numbers on any fertilizers that we carry, you'll normally see they have 3 numbers, and the middle number here is got to be really, really low or completely non-existent. They do like a little bit of acidity, so I like using the alfalfa meal. It looks like we have maybe another...
Yeah, sorry you all. We want to make sure that you have the best viewing experience, but
Should we restart?
We might have to relocate
to
another area.
All right, should I follow?
Yes, please follow along. Again. Thank you all so much for watching.
Hi again. It's Sarah, the horticulturalist here at Rogers Gardens with my beautiful flowers. Is that working?
This is much better.
Are we too close?
We are good. We just need the tables.
Okay. Here comes the big rackety table. It's a little heavy. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. This is the beauty of doing things live. You get to see. There's no magic. There's no cut. There's no edit. Okay, so here we go again. All right, should I just roll from the top? Thank you for hanging in with us. We really appreciate your flexibility. Alrighty, so Hi, my name is Sarah Smith and I'm a horticulturalist here at Rogers Gardens. And today, if you're hanging in with me, you're hearing this again, sorry. But if you're just tuning in, you get to hear this all new. Today I'm talking about pincushion flower. So pincushion flower is this beautiful plant that I have right here. That is the common name. Just be aware, there's a lot of different plants that we call pincushion flower. So this is sometimes why I'm a little hesitant to use common names or even introduce you guys to common names, because there's other things that commonly get called that. Scabiosa is a good example. Even some of the chrysanthemums get called pincushion flowers. So this is pincushion protea. The botanical is Leucospermum. So this is a really beautiful plant. This is a South African plant. And what I was saying before is if you live in Southern California, do yourself a favor, grow this plant because it is so incredibly low maintenance. All it needs is full sun, it needs good drainage, and literally no fertilizer. Even maybe just a little bit of alfalfa meal, and I'll show you that in a second, but really doesn't even need much. This is a plant that can't handle a lot of phosphorus, so fertilizing it with other plants is really a no-no. So what I tell everybody is make sure your area is well draining, or you can grow it in a pot. These do fantastically in containers, especially if you're using cactus mix. That would be the only thing I would use in there. It doesn't want to sit in a saucer, so it doesn't want to sit in its own water. And then you can occasionally fertilize it, but I'm going to be really hesitant to tell you to fertilize it too much. The only thing I would use on this is the alfalfa meal. So the alfalfa meal, if you look at the numbers on this, this is called the NPK, right? This middle number needs to be incredibly low or pretty much non-existent. It likes a little bit of nitrogen. It likes having the alfalfa meal because this actually adds just a little bit of that iron in there and the nitrogen that it can need. But other than that, really kind of nothing. And that's not even totally necessary unless your plant's really looking kind of sorry. That would be the only time I'd put something like this down. But other than that, it's super, super easy. Drainage wise, that's the really important part, that you want to make sure that you have that really great drainage. And like I said, if it's sitting in its own saucer of water, that's also a big no-no. So just make sure that if you do have it in a container, you have little pot feet underneath it, so that way it can drain out and not sit in its own water. And these flowers are just so gorgeous. Look at how beautiful these are. These are the ones, we have growing outside. I just dropped one on the ground. Oh no, and I'm dropping another one. So these are the flowers that we have growing outside. Aren't these beautiful? They're so pretty, and they make absolutely wonderful cut flowers, and they last forever. As a cut flower, you really get almost like 2 weeks out of these. So if you have these growing in your yard, make sure you give them a nice cut and bring them inside. The more you cut them, the more bushy your plant's going to be, and the more flowers you'll get next year too. Cutting them is actually pretty easy. I feel like a lot of people feel a little confused or worried about this because it seems like a newer plant that a lot of people aren't used to, but it's actually really simple. So along with the hardly any fertilizing, when you're cutting it, you're just going to look at the growth that's growing along the branch, and you want to make sure that you cut above a leaflet. So you want to always make sure that there's a leaflet there and you're cutting above that. If you're cutting to prune down and make it a nice lower size, you want to make sure that you follow those branches down, and then make sure that wherever you're cutting it, if you're cutting it low, that there's leaflets there. If you cut down into wood where there's no leaves, and this is such a young plant that this hardly has any, but you never want to cut a branch where there's no leaves, because chances are you're not going to get any kind of branching out there. The best time to start cutting it is fall through springtime. Those are the good times to cut it. And you'll even notice, especially like with a more mature plant, this is a very young plant, so it's got a lot of new growth on it, but on a more mature plant, you can tell where the old growth is from the previous year and the new growth is coming out, because it's got that really, really nice, very, very light green minty kind of color to it. The older leaves start to get a little bit more leathery feeling, less furry, and they're a little bit darker green. So that's a good example of an older leaf versus a newer leaf. You can see kind of the color difference there on that. You want to just make sure that when you're cutting down, again, you're just cutting down and there's leaves there. As they get bigger and bigger and bigger, the bottom starts to kind of lose leaves. So if you really want to make sure that you're keeping it nice and condensed, you want to make sure that you're cutting it every year. And the more you cut it, the more flowers you get, because you'll get more growth points out of that stem, and you'll get more and more flowers. So like I said, if you go into our parking lot, you'll see these flowering right now. They're absolutely gorgeous, and they're loaded with flowers. There's probably about 50 flowers on each plant. So it's really simple. Full sun, no fertilizer, good drainage. Keep it cut back, keep it nice and kind of pinched. It's almost like how you would treat a basil. If you're ever growing basil at home, you know when you're harvesting basil, it's always best to pinch the top out and use the top half, because that makes your basil bush bigger and bigger and fuller and fuller. Same thing with these. So it's really actually very simple. Aren't these beautiful? I love these. You know these are going to go in my hat afterwards, because I always like to put something in my hat. Is there any questions so far?
Yes.
Yeah, let's hear them.
There is... Hold on. How big do they get?
Okay, so these guys here, so there's, behind me I have a whole bunch of stuff. I have leucodendrons, I have leucospermums. The leucodendrons don't get a flower, it's more about the color of the foliage. These guys are gonna really kind of range depending on what form you have it growing in. Sometimes you can get these done as like a patio tree, meaning it has a tall trunk and a high bushed head. I had a neighbor who had one of those. It was absolutely beautiful, and it was so sad because when they moved, the new person took it out because I think they didn't know what it was, and I was so devastated when that happened. But hers being trimmed high like that was about 12 feet, kind of maxed out there. It got pretty big over time. The bush form guys like these, you're looking at maybe about 6 feet. If you're not keeping it trimmed back, you can really keep them trimmed to probably about 4 feet, and that keeps them bigger and wider. If you're not going to be trimming them as often, you're going to have a taller, more cylindrical kind of plant. If you constantly trim them off, you're going to have a wider, bushy kind of plant. So that's where you can keep it about 4 by 4. Otherwise, it's going to be a taller but narrow plant.
Okay, thank you so much,
Yes.
Sarah. So to answer the questions, we're going to walk and talk.
Okay, that
to
works.
get a little closer so we
Yeah.
get better connection.
Yeah,
we want to make sure
absolutely.
everyone has
I'm
the
bringing
best
my
viewing
flowers with me.
experience. Nice, yes, please do.
I don't mind walking and talking here. It's so gorgeous. It's so beautiful. You get to see all kinds of really amazing stuff here.
Indeed.
Okay, so what other kind of questions do we have going on?
So the next question was, how long does it bloom?
Okay, yeah, so it's actually a fairly long bloomer. These started probably about a month ago. You saw the like little, they opened slowly. So you could see the little almost like pin cushiony looking round bulb to it. And then once they started opening, we started seeing color on them about a month ago, and these are going to go on through the summertime. So it's a spring through trailing through summertime. Some of these on the bush, the newer ones that opened, are just starting to kind of lose their color. So when you're deadheading, use that as an opportunity to cut down into the bush to make it nice and fuller. So I was looking at some of these, like you can see the color on these two. This one's starting to lose its color a little bit, so that's why I went ahead and cut that down. And I cut it down into that stem, and I was looking for new growth points that were on the stem, so you can see the nice new little kind of beautiful gray furry sort of nubs. So I cut right above those nubs, and then I stripped the leaves off just to put it in the water. But this had leaves all the way down, so that's just being stripped so that way I can keep them in the water, so that way we can keep them at all our little gazebos today and enjoy them for the rest of the day, with the exception of the ones I'm going to put in my hat. So it's a spring through summer bloomer. Like I said, you can really kind of start trimming them back in September, but you want to be careful about taking too much away from them because you don't want to cut all the flowers off. I really suggest trimming them as they're blooming and shaping them as they're blooming, and once they're done blooming, that's when you use that as an opportunity for all of your trimming and shaping.
How do we propagate these?
So propagation with these, I was actually reading an article about that yesterday. You can propagate them from the new tip stem. I would use a rooting hormone for that. I watched actually a video on that, and I was thinking about giving that a whirl. For as long as I've been doing this, I don't do a lot of propagation on woody kind of plant material with it. I mean, succulents are super easy. I do that all the time just because it's really simple. But with woody stuff, it can be a little bit harder. When you're doing propagation, you want to make sure that your soil is incredibly well draining that you're propagating into. So I would use cactus mix and even add some extra perlite to it. You don't want to rot them out. You always want to cut on an angle. And any cutting that you're doing on a plant, it's always best. And you'll see here that I tried to cut these on a nice angle. Some of these, I cut the stems very, very long, so they're kind of blunt cut now because I just cut them to get them in shape to the vase that I was putting them in. But cutting at an angle is good. The reason it's not totally 100% necessary, but it's just a good practice to be in, because if you're cutting a branch piece and you're cutting it at an angle, that prevents any water that's dropping onto it from settling on that cut wound of the branch. That lets everything drain off. So it's always nice to cut that at an angle when you're propagating things, and not to get in the weeds of the science of this, but where the all of the little roots are going to come out of the propagated piece is going to be along the outside of that cut. So the more angle and like drastic angle you have, the more space and area you have for roots. So that's really important. But I really suggest watching a YouTube video on that and getting yourself some rooting hormone, because this is a woody kind of branch. So it would be best to use something like that.
How often do they flower?
So once they start flowering, it's constant. You have a constant flush of blooms. We don't have any currently flowering ones here now in the younger ones. However, I heard we are getting some more tomorrow, and I know we're getting some high gold, some scarlet colored ones. This one's called Tango. This one's called High Gold. We're getting a different kind of scarlet red colored one in tomorrow. But once they're going, they're going. Like I said, each one of the bushes out there is maybe about 3 feet by 3. Some of them are a little bit taller. Easily 50 blooms on the plant right now. I mean, it's just absolutely loaded, and it stays loaded. So it's not like roses where you get a flush and then you don't have anything. It's partially because the individual flowers last for so long. You can have a flower, like one flower on the bush, that lasts for a couple of months. So they really get absolutely loaded with flowers. So it's great.
All right. I believe that's all the questions that we have today.
Thank you for swirling and walking around with us and going through the nursery. You get to see all the beautiful stuff we have going on here. Make sure you come in and check out the ones that we have in our parking lot. They're right at the main entrance, not the entrance next to the farmhouse, but the original main entrance. They're absolutely beautiful right now. We have a great selection, and we're going to have even more coming in tomorrow. And it's just such an easy plant. If you want something low maintenance and you have full sun, this is the one for you. The only thing you got to make sure is that your drainage is really good. So if you have a lot of clay soil, I recommend using some cactus mix to mix into that. If you have a nice big container and a good nice full sun spot, just throw it full of cactus mix, plant your plant in there, make sure it's not sitting in a saucer, and that's it. It's so simple. Fertilizing is really unnecessary. A little bit of alfalfa meal is okay to use every once in a while, especially if you have an older plant and you're trying to encourage some new growth on it. But other than that, super simple. How beautiful is this? So Pincushion protea, the botanical on this is Leucospermum. We have them back here in our North 40 area. You can always just look at the little tags if it doesn't have flowers on it, but I'm getting news that we're going to get some tomorrow with some flowers on it, so you can see them right away and enjoy your flowers instantly this year. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really enjoy having you with me. I love that you guys get to sit and watch these and then come in and always talk to me and show me the plants that you've been growing and things that I've introduced you to. I really love talking to you and getting that feedback on that. Make sure that if you're not subscribed to our Facebook and Instagram, you subscribe to those, because we have weekly videos, usually 2 a week, and Thursdays usually our Plant of the Week edition. And then also make sure you check out our YouTube page. There's so much great content there. It goes on years and years and years. So many different experts. You can get all kinds of ideas there. Everything from decorating Christmas trees to plants to table settings, all kinds of great stuff. And then check out our weekly newsletters as well. You can sign up for our email. Then you always get to know all the new stuff that's coming in, all the specials and deals that we have going on, and the ever-bearing question that we get when the milkweed comes in. You'll get to know about that as well. So stay well, be safe, and happy gardening. Thanks so much. Bye.